Well, elsewhere, back in November, you may recall a story we brought you involving pen pals. Writing Back is a project introduced at Leeds University to combat loneliness for both students and older residents in our city. While participants just yesterday had the chance to meet their pen pals face-to-face, many for the first time, and here's what happened. In this room are relationships created by the movement of a pen. But today wasn't about writing, rather talking, as pen pals from across the city met up, some for the very first time. The University of Leeds project called Writing Back, which encourages students to write to older pen pals in our city and county, has been running for 3 years and has proved to be immensely popular. The project aimed to challenge perceptions and feelings of loneliness amongst students and adults. New research released by the cross-party Joe Cox Commission on Loneliness revealed that millions of men across the UK are hiding feelings of loneliness. Georgina Binnie, the project founder, was asked to contribute to those findings based on her experience of creating Writing Back, and letter writing could be a way of breaking down those barriers.
The success of the project really depends on, I think, conversation and people talking to each other, people recognising that there are people out there that might be lonely, that might want to talk to them, and kind of drawing those connections across communities, I think, is a great way to tackle loneliness. Contrary
to most people's expectations, the pen pals are never short of topics to write or indeed talk about. The letters have even inspired a play set to be performed later this year.
Obviously all my communication now is over social media, text message, so it's just nice having like that letter to look forward to every few weeks and actually writing something rather than it all being on social media.
It's just interesting being in touch with youngsters because you can very easily get stuck into a world of oldies.
While some of those today are meeting for the first time, others have seen each other before, an experience altogether different to writing a letter.
Coming into something where you don't know who it is you're writing to. Am I going to be liked for who I am?
There is a difference between writing to someone in a letter and then meeting them in person, but I've always found it so easy to converse with Andy anyway in the letter writing that I wasn't too worried when we met in person because I knew that we'd have things to talk about and that he's very easy to talk to.
A lot of pen pals, though, have become good friends. You may remember 90-year-old Barbara and student Olivia from when we last covered the story back in November. They see each other outside of these meets and will continue to write to one another even after Olivia graduates.
Shall I say it makes me feel about 20, 30 years younger?
It's a nice thing to say. It's just really nice getting to see Barbara again, seeing how she's doing, getting to hear how everything is and how her family are. It's just really nice to catch up in this relaxed setting. We met up for fish and chips at lunch.
Yes.
And you met my flatmates.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was nice for you to get to know them.
It was lovely, yes, indeed. And we enjoyed the meal too, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a really nice meal. You suggested the meal.
Except the mushy peas.
Most of these students will go home for the summer, but the project will recommence in September, once again creating hundreds of unique relationships in our city. From the Air, I'm Mark Kellish-Levine. Georgina, thanks for coming in today. We spoke to you yesterday about the project. Before we talk a little bit more about it, I just wanted to get your own feelings of it. You've seen the story go out and you've seen that these pen pals have become friends. What is that like for you to hear, knowing that you've made a difference?
It's brilliant. Obviously, when I match up the pen pals, you kind of hope that they'll form these friendships. So it's just wonderful to see when they actually kind of develop these friendships that go far beyond the letters that they've exchanged.
They have gone far beyond. I know we've heard from Barbara and Olivia who meet up outside of your meets and outside of letter writing as well. That must be wonderful to see.
Yes, absolutely. We have pen pals that have visited the Peak District together, another student that visits her older pen pal in Ilkley. So our students are really getting kind of far beyond Yorkshire as well.
Whenever I tell people about the Writing Back scheme, the question that they always ask me is, what do they have in common, students and older residents in the city, and why does it work?
Well, I match up the pen pals based on their common interests and hobbies. So a pen pal might say, I'm interested in dancing, or they might be interested in art, and they use those topics as a conversation starter. But actually beyond that, I guess there's that sort of human element where they want to discuss families, they want to discuss their lives. So it goes kind of from these interests and develops into something else entirely.
Another surprising element of the project is students actually writing letters. Perhaps for the older generation that's not really much of a surprise, but for students especially to sit down and write a letter, I don't suppose many students these days do that.
Absolutely, and that was part of the kind of reasons why I set up the project, thinking about our students might write essays, but it's often kind of typed as well. The demand for students is always really high actually, and I think they really enjoy the nostalgic appeal of sitting down, writing a letter, turning the computer off and focusing on kind of their feelings and what they want to express in that letter as well.
Let's talk about the Jo Cox Commission for Loneliness, the cross-party body that's responsible for that report. It was released details this week saying that millions of men across the country suffer from feelings of isolation that don't perhaps want to talk about it. I know in your group that men appeared to be underrepresented. Why do you think men struggle to talk about these kind of things?
I think part of that is the fact that men are often underrepresented in the groups where we might recruit older letter writers from anyway. So kind of men maybe aren't accessing the services that are available and the groups that are available for them to attend as well. I think there's this idea that maybe kind of letter writing is more of a female pursuit. But if you look at kind of say great letters exchanged during the war, the kind of history of letter writing, we've had a group of ex-miners who took part in our project and wrote letters. There are men kind of writing and kind of have written these great letters, and I think you saw kind of with another relationship between Andy and Ellie, really great friendships can develop.
Absolutely, and very briefly, Georgina, tell me what happens next.
Well, we break for the summer now, but we actually have an exhibition of the letters that have been sent as part of the project previously at the Headingley Arts Centre in June, and that's going to coincide with an intergenerational theatre group who've devised a script based on the letters, and they'll be doing 2 shows there as well.
Wonderful news. Georgina, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.